Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, sitting down for some bittersweet news with Dragon Age Dreadwolf. We've been covering this game for so long, it's insane to think that this game started development right after Dragon Age Inquisition, and much has transpired between then and now, and we have yet another chapter in the development book of Dragon Age Dreadwolf, as we have learned that this game will not be releasing until at the earliest April 2024. And as we're going to backtrack and go through the development history of this game, I think it's going to be much longer. I have some predictions, I have some thoughts, and no doubt this increases the pressure on BioWare's shoulders to deliver because people are waiting longer and longer, and they think that just means the game's got to be incredible. But you know what's not bittersweet? You may have noticed these specks here on my face. These are not bittersweet. Let me tell you a bit about them. We're all spending more time than ever in front of screens, and I don't think that's a bad thing. We're either gaming, we're working, and certainly my entire life is based around this computer screen I'm sitting in front of right now. And you may notice I'm wearing a pair of glasses, which I typically do on Defining Duke, and that's because when I'm in front of my screen for a long period of time, I like to have my GMG performance on deck to make sure my eyes are protected. You see, again, I can totally attest to this brand because you've seen me wearing it for years on my respective shows, on my respective platforms. That's because as you're in front of screens and you're not protecting your eyes, you're gonna continuously get eye strain, you're gonna get itchy eyes, the blue light's gonna keep you up at night. There are ways for us to remain in front of screens in a healthier manner, and GMG Performance is a big part of that solution. What I'm wearing right here, right now, are the Optimizer brands, which are not only helpful in keeping me protected from the blue light, but also, man, oh man, are they stylish. Your boy looks good right now. Check it out. Right now, 40% discount for the next 48 hours right as this video goes live. So if you're interested in this, now is a good time to click the link in the description down below and get a pair of Optimizers for almost half off. This is a great deal and a great opportunity to start taking care of your eyes and making sure you're on the up and up with all those blue lights that are surrounding you. Now, a lot of the Dragon Age Dreadwolf news that we have covered here on the channel has always been, you know, from the, we'll say unofficial sources that you can typically trust, you know, your big game leakers, but this time the news comes straight from EA. So let's read this article from Video Game Chronicles. It looks like Dragon Age Dreadwolf won't be released before April 2024. EA has shared plans of its upcoming games planned for the release this fiscal year. Dragon Age Dreadwolf isn't currently scheduled for release before April 2024, according to publisher EA. On Tuesday, the company shared details of the announced games it has lined up for release during the current fiscal year 2024, which ends on March 31st, 2024. These include Super Mega Baseball Q1 fiscal year 24, F1 23 Q1 fiscal year 24, Immortals of Avium Q2 fiscal year 24, Madden 24 Q2 fiscal year 24, EA Sports Football Club, formerly FIFA for those who don't know, Q2 fiscal year 24, and then NHL 24 Q3 fiscal year 24. EA has also said it has 2 unannounced games releasing in fiscal year 24. One is an EA Sports title, and the other is a racing game. So Dragon Age Dreadwolf, the game we've been talking about forever, not coming until at least April 2024. And I just get this strong feeling, and I imagine all you are sharing this emotion right now. Yeah, it's probably gonna be much longer than this. I'm thinking, if we're lucky, like holiday 2024. And I know that may be extreme to a couple of you out there, but we really gotta take an honest, hard look at the development cycle that has been reported, and then look at where BioWare has officially stated they are at in the development of this game. So last we heard from Bloomberg, and since they continue to paywall their site, I don't know if this is like profitable for them, but like, well, let's get with the times here. But anyway, Bloomberg has reported that BioWare's Dragon Age Dreadwolf had restarted as a single player game in February 25th of 2021. Now this report comes through Gamatsu, where they write Electronic Arts has allowed developers at BioWare to remove all planned multiplayer components from the next entry in the Dragon Age series, according to a Bloomberg report. Citing people familiar with the matter, the report states that the game was previously designed with a heavy multiplayer component, but has transformed into a single-player only game in recent months, thanks to both the success of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a single-player game that has reached over 10 million players in the first 4 months of of its release, and the failure of Anthem, a multiplayer game whose promised rework was recently canceled at the time of writing this. The next Dragon Age game began development in 2015, but in the fall of 2017 was rebooted to push for long-term monetization, leading to the departure of creative director Mike Laidlaw, who went on to establish Yellow Brick Games. The game was officially announced in 2018. During development, some members of BioWare leadership reportedly fought back to pivot the next Dragon Age back to a single-player only game, which seems to have succeeded. Okay, this is all important to recount because a lot of people forget this game has rebooted twice in development, right? There was that pivot of a vision, right, where they were originally going with this more compact 30-hour, highly replayable, traditional BioWare experience, right? People forget there was a time period RPGs were not 80 to 100 hours long. You usually got something like what BioWare produced, which was a 20 to 30 hour game, but you could play it 5 different ways. So it ended up being that 100-hour game in a very different, more compartmentalized manner. But also, we were hearing about, oh, this heavily integrated multiplayer feature. Now, all this is important to consider because this was in 2021, it was revealed, and they said that pivot had been made a few months beforehand. So let's say the pivot happened in the holiday period of 2020. Now you're talking about a game that's effectively restarting its development because you're stripping out the core, the guts, and you probably are looking at Marvel's Avengers, which is a game that no doubt was a single player game at some point, transformed into a live service game. And as much as Square Enix tried to hide it, you could feel the transformation at a certain point in the game, and it absolutely disrupted the experience. I feel Dragon Age Dreadwolf, if it doesn't get the time it needs, is on that same path. So with all that accounted for, we're talking about since 2020 that development has truly started on the Dragon Age that we are going to receive, the single player focused one. And with that, we also learned that Mark Dara was brought on board as a consultant for this game, which I do think changes where the game is heading a bit, because he could look at it as the guy who has directed Dragon Age 2, has been there since the very beginning of Dragon Age, and looks at it and says like, no, we can't tell the story like this. Like, the lore is inconsistent. You already know how BioWare fans are. So it's wise to bring him into the building. That can lead to more development time because if there's any type of narrative changes that have to be made, but that's all speculation. The official source in BioWare has told us where they're at in development, because when we go over to the Dragon Age page, the last update we got on the game was the milestone they hit for Alpha, where they write, up to this point, we've been working hard on various parts of the game, but it's not until the Alpha milestone that a game comes all together. Now, for the first time, we can experience the entire game, from the opening scene of the first mission to the very end. We can see, hear, feel, and play everything as a cohesive experience. This news hit us on October 26, 2022. So when you look at that type of general development timeline, this actually adds up. Like, from personal experience, I can say this adds up about a 2-year window to get to your playable start to finish state before you begin polishing content, editing content, that type of stuff. This seems like a good window. So from where BioWare effectively had restarted to now, it seems like they are on track. The reality with that is, when is the reveal coming for this game? Because that's the thing BioWare fans have really been asking. I think from what I've read in the comments, from what I've read online, people are generally understanding with all the delays this game is getting. I mean, I don't have to re-explain it. After Anthem and Mass Effect Andromeda, the reception to both of them, the lost confidence in BioWare, and seeing how quickly people get back on that team when Mass Effect Legendary Edition came out, like, it speaks for itself that they need this game to be as big of a home run as possible. Of course, with the increased wait time, like I said, there's more pressure, and with that increased wait time, I wonder how EA is operating looking at this, because you look at something like Anthem that took them 7 years to get out and obviously was a tremendous failure. You look at now Dragon Age Dreadwolf, which is nearing a decade probably by the time it releases, and there's no way in hell a single player game can get that type of return on investment, at least in a AAA environment where you're throwing millions and millions of dollars at it before we even start to market this. So with all of that encapsulated, a lot of folks are just wondering, like, when are we actually going to see this game? And no doubt when it gets pushed back this far, I don't know if we're going to see it this year. At first I was thinking, yeah, like based off the rumors, the reports, it would kind of make sense we see something this year. But if EA is unintentionally officially saying, oh, Dragon Age Dreadwolf not coming for a while, this probably pushes back the reveal until next year, because if you're EA, I would have to think you want to keep this one close to the vest and let it come out and show itself when it's truly ready and indicative of that final product, because this game does need that wow factor. Not to up the ante here or set it up for failure, because I trust this will be a great game, but part of that is going to be the first impression. And this game, unfortunately, has been subject to a number of leaks, a number of reports, because everyone wants to know what's going on with BioWare. Not only because of the drama that happened with the last 2 releases, but people want this team to get back to their A game. And what I do love here is they're getting that time. But I wonder how the internal optics are for EA, who is looking at their original single-player Golden Child, taking 7 to 10 years to release big games, and not a lot of them are generating a ton of revenue. And then you look at Respawn, who's not only got a successful live service game, but also has just released 2 really impressive single-player games. And especially when you look at Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the development timeline for that game is especially astonishing, bugs in performance aside, not trying to erase that criticism, but the fact that a AAA game came out so quickly after Jedi Fallen Order was super impressive and is a compliment to their design. So my galaxy brain part of my head wonders if that eases pressure off of BioWare, or if EA, in their cutthroat nature, who has not shown fear to shut down studios, looks at BioWare and says, hey, look, we got our Golden Child now. We got our favorite son now. So skidoo if this game doesn't do what it's supposed to do. I do feel like with the time that's being taken, more and more, this feels like the back against the wall, big moment for them. But of course, with the roadmap in tow, you could immediately throw that opinion back in my face, and fairly so, right? Because they have Mass Effect 5 coming up, and what that's going to end up being seems to be, I want to say a reboot, because it looks like it's a continuation in a lot of ways, but I imagine a good fresh starting point for not only BioWare talent, but fans alike, because it's been so long since we've seen a traditional Mass Effect entry in the storyline. But ladies and gentlemen, that's what's going on with BioWare. That's what's going on with Dragon Age Dreadwolf. Ultimately, we're not getting this game for a while, and I'm not holding my breath for a reveal. And I'm, as much as it stinks, because I really want this game and I want to see it in action. I want to see what they've been cooking, like, especially story-wise, man. Like, it was 2021 that I did a full Dragon Age retrospective. I did re-reviews for all the game, thinking like, all right, here we go, we're cooking now. And then we get all this news of reboots and stuff, and I'm thinking, all right, I was a little bit ahead of the game there. So I'm gonna have to gear up for another replay of these games at some point, but yeah, I'm just so curious where they're gonna officially take the story. I did really like the idea of the heist that were being tossed around. I'm wondering if they're gonna go in that direction, but nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, that's what's going on with BioWare, and I'm really excited to see your thoughts. Are you disappointed? Are you excited hearing that they're getting more time? Do you have any apprehension on how EA may be looking at the timelines that BioWare is taking to make their games? I'm really curious as to what you are thinking on this, so fire away in the comments down below. Other than that, be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all of the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.